عشقت بهتر از زر است، مهرت از دل کی برون کنم، برگو بی مهر تو چون کنم. تو گردش جهان و دور آسمان بپاس، نور ایزدی همیشه رهنمای ماست. مهر تو چون شد پیشم، نور از تو نیست اندیشم. در راه تو کی ارزشی دارد این جان ما، پاینده باد خاک ایران ما.
Political analysis: the policy of oil in exchange for freedom. One of the most attractive features of Twitter I came across with last year was Twitter Spaces. I used to take part in many of them held by different Iranian hosts to get to know with the thoughts of Iranian diaspora and those living inside my country. To me, it resembled like a big parliament where people from different walks of life and various ideological backgrounds participated to chip in their thoughts how we could make Iran a better place to live for our compatriots. Of course, there were lots of Ayatollah's agents in there too, trying to derail the discussions or even cut them whenever these brainstorming sessions were leading to some useful conclusions. Yet I took the chance to gauge the heat under the skin of the town and bring myself up to speed what could be the next thing to do. I have a dream that one day, and that day might not be far away, we Iranians have a free parliament consisted from various parties where we can discuss freely. I have a dream that we would have a political parliament, but not political imprisonment, torture, and execution. Amongst different Twitter spaces, there were a few hosted by Professor Bahram Bahramian from Iranian think tank Voice of Iranian Nation, who has a monarchist tendency, in which he used to describe his thoughts about a new model of democracy for future Iran. His model was based on freedom of all political parties before election, and when candidates occupied their seats in the parliament, they should let go of their political views and just work for the ruling state. His justification was that current democracies in the West, especially in the US, are not able to lead the societies toward prosperity, taking US election in 2020 as an evidence to his claims. It goes without saying that a monarchist who believes in such a new model of so-called democracy is not suggesting anything different than the system in Iran before 1979 during Shah. There is no doubt that Shah of Iran and his father Reza Shah the Great did a lot of genuine services for Iranian, resulting in a gold-plated economy and a unique military might in the Middle East. Yet the system of government was a monarchy with lack of presence from various active political parties in the parliament, when compared to UK, Sweden, and Norway constitutional monarchies with a parliamentary system in the same era. Professor Bahramian sent a letter to Joe Biden recently suggesting Iran could cater for all US energy needs to fossil fuels if the current administration helped to remove Ayatollah's government and establish a democracy in Iran. The letter was timely, coinciding with US extreme climate change policies, that instigated fossil fuel crisis. It could give US administration a permanent solution to tackle the skyrocketing fuel prices after the quick fix they thought of by releasing strategic oil reserves of America. It would also provide a relief for environmental zealots in US administration to avoid Republicans' sharp criticism and carry on their fraudulent net zero agenda, blocking any fossil fuel production in the United States and outsource the supply from future government in Iran. This would have a drastic adverse effect on Republicans' campaign for 2024 election, which is built on US energy independence policy. That would also come handy for Joe Biden to survive the upcoming impeachment when the red tsunami sweeps all across America in November, and help him for 2024 presidential campaign if he dares to run again versus Donald Trump, who is most likely the Republican candidate. I was not expecting any reply to this letter, as US President even didn't reply to Prince Reza Pahlavi's letter, greeting him very warmly and pleasantly to White House in 2021. To my surprise, Joe Biden replied to Professor's letter, but in a vague form, depicting current administration climate change policies and net zero agenda and how they have promised their supporters to make this come true. A timely suggestion by Professor Bahramian and a reciprocating reply by US President leaves no doubt. The policy of oil in exchange for freedom is materialized and will be implemented in near future in Iran. Recently, Prince Reza Pahlavi addressed Iranians and some Farsi medias, describing next steps that would be taken when Ayatollah's regime fall in Iran. Specifically, the formation of interim government and Constituent Assembly. His Excellency clearly mentions some of freedom movements wouldn't be a part of interim government and Constituent Assembly. While everyone's first guess is that he was referring to MEK as the most unpopular political front between Iranians, he might even go further to include more partisan movement in the same category based on the label he described as those who can't work with others. In the worst case scenario, every competition could be counted in the same bundle. Since history shows His Excellency has a tendency to work closely with those who have a political inclination toward monarchy or constitutional monarchy, with a parliamentary system consisting only and only from one party. The common theme in Professor Bahramian's New Model of Democracy and His Excellency's recent speech is a constitutional monarchy with a parliament consisting of members who shall be stripped from their political affiliation after election, forming a cohort of a united front, merely serving the state. Just imagine a constituent assembly and an interim government, cherry-picked by His Excellency and his team, having access to minimum 450 billions of US dollars of frozen assets. With oil and gas sanctions lifted, one could not expect any other system similar to UK, Sweden, Norway constitutional monarchy or France-Israel Republic system have any chance to win the upcoming referendum after Mullah's removal. The only party winning the upcoming referendum is the same hand-picked interim government with the new democratic model of Professor Bahramian that is exactly the equivalent of the government system in Iran before 1979, You might not agree and just consider this as a conspiracy theory, but history has shown Joe Biden and his team already put together the most sophisticated election fraud system in the history of America. And if they could do that in the United States, they can do it in anywhere else in the world. Well, if this happens, I have no doubt Iranian economy will absolutely prosper, and Iran military might would be amongst the strongest in the world. Even the social and economic freedom would be neck and neck with the Western countries. Yet the question is, if you ask Iranian youth like Shervin, who composed a phenomenal song for those fighting the brutal Islamist regime forces in middle of the streets these days, why you are confronting this evil regime, most probably they will reply, for freedom. And it's not only economic and social freedom, but the political freedom. Apparently, it's not going to be easy for Democrats and His Excellency's think tank leader to put this plan fully in action, as Republicans are predicted to win the Congress and the Senate election in 2022, whose votes are absolutely crucial for lifting the sanctions and enriching the special hand-picked interim government and constituent assembly with billions of dollars of frozen assets to outshine an Iran future referendum a year after the mullah's government eradicated. A constituent assembly and an interim government comprised of most of the political fronts might be a perfect way out. Yet, His Excellency drew the line by coining a new phrase, those who can't work with others, which is not clear how inclusive it could get to disable any serious competition. We will wait and see, but won't keep silent as we didn't before. We believe freedom is a God-given right. No government can take it from people, either by oppression or by bribing them, with only economic and social freedom. We leave this to Iranian youth to analyze the current political situation for themselves, since we believe it's the good thought that will make Iran great again.